Where are you from?
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Wow, welcome. Are you all, Christina, you're also working at the hostel, or you're staying?
Yes, we're working together.
Pass this to Shiraz. I think she's the only one getting one. Yeah, I got everything. You guys see me and hear me, just put up your thumbs, because everything is muted, and that's great. Okay, there's some really important stuff here that we're going to deal with. If you don't mind closing the door, you know, just if anybody comes, they'll see the lights on. We are working with the Kli Yakar. You heard of the Kli Yakar, Shiraz? You heard of the Maharal of Prague? Mm-hmm. He was the student. He was the star student. And not only that, we're talking 400 years ago, he became the rabbi, the chief rabbi of a town called Prague, right? The city of Prague. And he had a chance to learn not only with the Maharal, but also the Shlach HaKodesh, Shnei Luchot HaBrit, another famous rabbi 400 years ago. He got to learn under the two of them, and these are like the greatest rabbis of that generation. And so we're really, what's the word, not just honored, I mean, it's like a real great opportunity to learn underneath this rabbi, who you say, well, where is he? He's not in the room. But his lips are moving in his grave. He is still alive. Okay. I would like to start, if you go to page Kaf Aleph, it should be the third page, meaning like the beginning of the second page, because they're doubled over. You see where it is? Kaf Aleph? So why am I choosing this? This is a famous Rashi, and I think it's very prophetic, if you ask me. You know what prophecy is? Mm-hmm. First of all, let me give an introduction, because we're on Breishit. The Torah is, and not only, an instruction manual for living. It's, God created the world, and he didn't create it in a vacuum and for nothing, but he had lots of purpose, which hopefully we'll bring up some of that tonight. But he didn't create it for nothing or in a vacuum, but he gave us his thoughts, an instruction manual for living. Okay? What is prophecy? I'll throw it out. What is prophecy? Because it's also a book of prophecy. Nevuah.
In the future.
So you think the first definition you gave, something to do with a future event.
Usually we think that.
That's what we think. Okay.
I've understood it as being like the application of Torah to life.
Okay. Everything everyone said so far is good, right? And as an application of the Torah in your life, okay?
For me, is when God gives the man like the speech of what he wants, what he expects, and a projection of the future also.
Okay, so I think it's a little bit of both so far. Okay, so what if I tell you, right? It's a flow of information coming through lips, right? Through humans, a flow of Hashem's will, but it is more focused, let's say, on. I know this word is not an easy word to swallow. Are you cold? You can sit here. That would be way out of the, okay, it's better. Rebuke, right? God already gave us the Torah. What do we need prophecy for? So that we could stay on the path. That if, God forbid, we would be veering off the path. So then the prophets come and tell us to get back on the path. And if we don't get back on the path, there is some type of punishment, right, waiting for you. Because the direct path, the right path, the straight path, is the blessed path. Is the path where you'll find all the blessings and all the prosperity. And if you veer off this given path, so then there are consequences. So the prophet is there. His job is not to foretell the future, although he does that for the sake of getting you back on the path. Okay? That's the goal of prophecy. I think another thing that it does, it allows us to know that Hashem is in our life and He's running the world, because if a prophet foretells something and it happens, so you know that there's a ongoing relationship, positive or negative.
So why did the Chazal, I think, said that the prophet is given to the fools?
No, so basically because we don't have prophecy, there's many levels of prophecy. So the highest level of prophecy has ceased to exist. So now what are we left with? People who are, let's say, autistic, right? People who don't have full capacity, or maybe, when I say, I don't mean autism is like that, but there is like a filter where they don't see the same reality that we see. So they're able to see things. The levels of prophecy we have are only the lower levels. I'll give you an example. One of the known levels of prophecy that we have is when we name our children. So when your mother named you and your father named you Shiraz, there was a level of Ruach HaKodesh. There was a level of prophecy. And that is not for fools, but it's not a direct level of prophecy. So because we don't have anymore a high level of direct prophecy, you could go around and speak to children and say to a child, what did you learn in your Torah studies today? And he will tell you a certain verse, and that verse will have some significance in your life. So since we no longer have that high level of prophecy, the prophecy still exists, but we don't have the filtering system. We only have a lower level filter. So it could be when they said, it's, say the statement again?
Prophecy is given to the fools?
Yeah, so I'm not sure that's the literal statement, but people with autism, people who don't have the same capacity for reality that we have a different sense of reality and have certain insights that we don't have. So I don't mean to put down, God forbid, autism. What I'm saying is that they have a different filtering system. We're cluttered with all our responsibilities and relationships, and they, whoever these people are, I'm putting autism into the category, call them fools, they're not as concerned about the way they look in front of other people, right?
So people that sometimes tend to be like charlatans, people that tell you, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen tomorrow.
That's not a fool. That's a charlatan. That's a liar.
So they're against the Torah? Probably. Right?
Yeah. If either they're a false prophet, if they're saying that God told me to say this, then there's consequences for them. Look it up in, I think, chapter 13 or 18 of Deuteronomy. Put that aside. That people who maybe are actually insane, right? Actually, that there's some element of divinity that is still coming through them, where for us it wouldn't happen. But we're talking about the higher levels, okay? So there is Ruach HaKodesh. There is a level of prophecy, which we don't call prophecy, because we're not predicting the future, we're just insight. Okay, when the great rabbis are sitting and studying, and I don't even know that many today, but in years past, in the sages of the Talmud and onward, in the Rambam, and they were chavrutot, they were learning with great other souls, whether it was Elijah the prophet, King David. I mean, they're able to learn with souls that you and I probably, I shouldn't say probably, but may never achieve that in our lifetime. So that's the non-foolish ones. But then there are fools. Okay, anyway, so I don't know if that clarified at all what you were leading to. Rashi, what's Rashi's job? We look at Rashi to help us interpret the Torah, okay? Because he has a clear Masorah, like the Rambam, like many of the rabbis, all the way back to Moses. Now, the Rashi had so many to choose from. You have one verse and you have different levels of interpretation, different levels of meaning. The Torah itself is infinite. Okay? It doesn't mean that anybody can come and make up a lie and make up their own interpretation. We're talking about, we call 70 faces of Torah. My rabbi taught me the word 70 faces of Torah means infinite. Okay? But they have to be legitimately, part of the legitimate system. So Rashi had in front of him a oral Torah, and he wanted to choose the best statement from the rabbis that would best interpret or help us translate and understand the meaning behind the verse. So we start off with, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the very first Rashi, I think, is prophetic. But it's not him being prophetic, although I'm sure he had that level of prophecy, but that the prophecy of the Torah itself and the prophecy of the sages of old. I'll read you the very first Rashi. In the beginning, Bereshit, Rabbi Yitzchak said, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Lo hayatzarich lahatchil et Torah, ela mi'achodesh hazeh lechem. The Torah did not need to begin, right? What's the word Torah? Hora'ah. Hora'ah means teaching, instructions. That's what it means. It's an instruction manual. It's a book of law. So if it's a book of law, we know that really when you get to Exodus chapter 12, that's where we're about to leave Egypt. And God says, this is going to be the first month to you. You're going to take the sheep or the goat. You're going to watch it for a few days, make sure that there are no blemishes. Then you're going to shecht it. You're going to slaughter it. You're going to take the blood and put it on the doorpost. Or you're going to eat these matzahs. You're going to leave Egypt. And all the laws. So the first real law that came to the nation of Israel is, this is the first month to you. Later on in Exodus chapter 12. So he says, why do you need the whole book of Breishit? What do you need this for? Okay, good. Let me open up before we read Rabbi Yitzchak. Why would we need Bereshit? Why would we need Genesis? All the stories up until we left Egypt.
There were so many gods available for worship, and the one and true God wanted us to know He's the Creator. Nothing's here without Him.
Okay,
And
so
that
to know God.
only He is worthy of worship.
So to know God. To know God.
To know who He is, to know what He accomplished.
To know God.
Yeah. And to know where we came from and our status in front of Him.
Okay. I like that. Any other? Let's go back, right? Rabbi Yitzchak said, God need not have begun the Torah except from this month shall be to you, for you, the beginning of months, because it's the first commandment. Shohay mitzvah rishona shnitztavu bo Yisrael. It's the first commandment that Israel was commanded with. So what's the reason that Hashem began with the book of Genesis? Ma tam patak b'Bereshit, because He wanted to get this message across, the one I'm about to tell you. Mishum, because koach ma'asav higid la'amo, the power of His acts He told to His people, letet lehem nachlat goyim, in order to give them the estate of the nations. The estate of the nations.
Right.
What real estate property is that? You're sitting in it. Israel. Eretz Yisrael.
Can you read that for me again? I'm going to write that down.
You can watch this when you go back.
Oh, okay.
Okay? The power of His acts He told to His people in order to give them the estate of the nations. If you look, Psalms 111, verse 6. So that what? So that if the nations of the world would say to you, remember this is going back, Rashi wrote this in the year 1100, but he's quoting from a measures that goes back 700 years written before that. And it was oral all the way from Mount Sinai. Do you believe this? It says, if the nations would say to you, Israel, you are thieves, you stole this land. Unbelievable.
Nobody would ever say that. I'm being
This was printed before 1967.
I know,
Well, not this
I know,
one, but
and it's pretty.
I got prints of Rashi from
Yeah.
before.
What is the Psalms what?
Psalms 111,
Psalm 111:6.
verse 6. That if the nations of the world would say to Israel, Listim atem, you are thieves. Shekavashtem, I'm not reading from that page yet, but I'm just reading the Chumash. That you were occupiers. Shekavashtem, you took it by force. Can you imagine? That really this land belongs to the 7 nations, the Canaanites. You know, they've had the leaders of the Palestinian people, I think it was Arafat, he says, we are the original Canaanites. Anyway, and what happened? That the whole earth belongs to Hashem. This is what Breishit is going to try to convey. God created the world, and He gives the land to whomever He wants, and He can take it away from whoever He wants and give it to someone else. It's His choice. It's His. The whole world belongs to Hashem. He created it, and He gave it to the one He found proper in His own eyes. By His wish, He gave it to them, and then by His own wish, He took it from them and gave it to us. Very apropos, right? The very first Rashi of the entire Torah. So now that we read it, let's see what the Kli Yakar has to say. Ela kadei shelo yamru ha'umos listim atem. Okay, that's a different medrash that he's quoting. That's not the one that we just quoted in Rashi. That's a very, it's a very interesting medrash. They crossed over. There's a medrash that says there are 3 places that the nations cannot call you thieves. The medrash says this. There are 3 places that the Goyim cannot call you thieves. What are the 3 places? Jerusalem, Hebron, and Nablus, Shechem. But guess what? Those are the 3 most contentious places. So what does the Medrash mean? They can't call. They do. No, it means that you have to know. When you look at your Tanakh, there are actually 3 places in here that your forefathers purchased with money. Right?
400, right?
Well, Abraham paid 400 shekels of silver for the burial place of Sarah, which is in Hebron. King David, I'm skipping time, I should go to Yaakov. Yaakov bought Shechem for the burial of Yosef. And King David bought from a Jebusite, his name was Ravna, the place where the temple was going to be built. So there's 3 places where a real estate transaction is clearly documented. So what is the Medrash telling us? That they cannot call you thieves. Of course they're going to call you thieves. You should not have that victim, I don't know the correct psychological term, but the guilt associated and say, oh yeah, we're so sorry, we're occupiers and we're thieves. No, they cannot call you thieves because you actually purchased it. Okay, it was handed down to the progeny from the forefathers as a heritage, a nachala. Okay, so we're going to go. We're just really beginning. What do we care if they call us thieves? Just because there's a suspicion that they're going to call us thieves, the whole Torah has to change the order? This is the first month to you. It's a book of law. It should start with the first law. Just because we're afraid or concerned or worried that they're going to call us thieves, we have to, right? God needs to put in Genesis the whole story for that. So this is going to be the answer. Does everyone here believe in God? Can I just ask any God? Who doesn't believe in God?
Who doesn't?
Yeah, I'm asking. Is anybody in this room? I just want to know you guys a little bit.
Yeah, I think I doesn't believe in
Okay, say it. So he's going to tell us the Fishadavar Zegorim Kfir Be'ikr. This matter, if there is no God, right? If you don't believe that the land belongs to the Jews, or if you don't believe in, I'm going to really get to the point, thievery is wrong. You're not allowed to steal. We're going to get to that point. But basically, if without this, you would come to the wrong conclusion. You would become instead of using the word heretic, I'll use the word a non-believer, okay? Just a non-believer, it sounds better, okay? Ki yamru, because what would a non-believer say? Late din v'late dayan, v'chol da'olim gavar. There is no justice, there is no judge, and might makes right. Whoever is stronger wins. And this is how I was brought up. I was not religious, but we were taught, we were advanced stages of monkeys, okay? And without any morality, there was no reason why I should feel bad about taking or stealing. But guess what? I did. Something inside of me said, there's something wrong with it. I don't know why. They're telling me in my school system, public schools in America, that you're just an advanced stage of an amoeba. You know, you look in the microscope and you see these little creature crawlers, and they advance through evolution, and you're just one of them, just more advanced. And how does the evolutionary system work according to Darwin? Might makes right. Whoever's stronger survives. And there's no justice. Everything's random. So there's really nothing wrong with stealing. I'm not trying to convince you there's a God. Just letting you know how I thought. Maybe you thought differently. Maybe you're still thinking about it. Ki'ilu hayla manhig hamasader inyono motza'a u'mova'a lama lo micha bechem kshalachtem bizroa derek listim arto sheva somos. There has to be no justice, because if the Jews can just come in there and steal the land, and there's no justice, then there's no God. It just doesn't make sense that Genghis Khan and, I don't know, you name it, what's his name, Stalin, right? How many millions of people, okay, even Hitler, Yamach Shemo, just, there's no justice. There's, nothing. Kimitam zeh, guess what? He's claiming, because of this idea, because of people thinking that might makes right, this is the reason why there was a decree for the flood. Okay, so you may not believe in the flood because of the Bible, but there are a lot of historical proof that something happened, and that, so basically there was a reason for the flood, and the flood came about because of gezer, thievery. People didn't believe in God. Because how can you possibly believe in God if you're thieving? Right? You have plenty of people, oh yeah, I believe in God, and they thieve, but they really don't have a conscious awareness that there's somebody or something looking down and judging the world. And that everything I get is mine, and somehow it's right for me, and whatever that person has, it's right for them. What right do I have to take that? God gave it to them. God gave me my package. So if you go to Mishlei, that would be Proverbs. Did I skip? Yeah, I skipped a lot because we went somewhere else. So it's Proverbs 28:24. You don't have these sheets. Sorry, I didn't print them all. And look at Proverbs 28:24. He who robs his father and his mother says, this is not a sin, is a companion of a destroyer. Okay, now, robbing from your own parents, I would think that's less of a crime, because you could always justify and say, when they die, it's going to be mine anyway, so I'll get it while they're alive. It's still a crime. So by you thinking that it's okay and justifying, in the Hebrew, you're ish mashchit. You are a chaver. You are a companion to an ish mashchit. You can look at Rashi too. Rashi is very interesting. What does it mean to rob your father? That's Hashem. Or your mother, that's the people of Israel. He who causes the people to sin by robbing the Holy One, blessed be He, estranges his children from Him and robs them of His goodness. I'll just give you another example. We make blessings. You know why the Jews are called Jews? Because they walk around with gratitude. They're like, you know how you have in America the Quakers? So too, that's like the word Haredi also means the Quakers. But Jew means to be like full of gratitude, just thanking God all the time. So there's two verses that seem contradictory in the Torah. One says that the whole world belongs to God. Another verse says God gave the world to mankind. So how can that be? Who's the world belong to, God or man? So, us Jews, we have an interpretation. We were there. We were witnesses at Mount Sinai. And God told us that the world belongs to me. And if you use any of it, it's stealing. But once you recognize, you're acknowledging that it's mine, then I give it to you. So we make a blessing before we eat. And then it's not stealing. Once we recognize that it belongs to Him, then He gives it to us. Now, where does the name Jew come from? Yehudah. So Leah named her fourth child Yehudah. We talked earlier about the naming of children is prophetic. So there were four mothers. At least two of them were prophets, right? Rachel and Leah. And then you had the two handmaidens. So as prophets, Leah and Rachel thought, or knew, interpreted and understood, thought that each mother would have 3 children. Well, they knew that there were going to be 12 children. That's all they knew for prophecy. So the assumption would be, if there's going to be 12 children, that each one of the 4 mothers would have an even, Stephen, 3 children each. So Yehudah is the 4th child of Leah, and she said, I got more than my share. I am so grateful. I'm going to name him Yehudah. And that's what the name Jew, that's what we are. We are walking around full of gratitude, and if we're not, we got to get there, right? That's the goal. Okay, so what did we just read? That if someone steals from their father and mother and they end up saying that there's no sin, that is a very bad thing. In the Hebrew, it's chaverhu leish mashchit. The word mashchit is destruction. It's the same word used for the generation of the flood, as we'll see shortly. It wasn't even the fact that they stole, but from all the evil that stems from it. Because the one who sinned by stealing, he doesn't feel guilt. He doesn't think that he's doing anything wrong. The Omer Ein Pesha, he says, I didn't do anything wrong. Ein Elokim Shoftim Ba'aretz, because there is no judge. He's not looking at the world as if there is a God who judges. Akin hu chaver li'ish mashchit, therefore he's a companion to an evil, destructive person, meaning to say, Ladur Hamabel, he's falling into the same trap, the same sin as the generation of the flood. And regarding them, if you look in Genesis chapter 6, verse 12, Ki hishchit kol basar es darko, for all flesh has corrupted its way. That's why the flood came, and the word is because of the corruption. The hishchit kol basar, all flesh corrupted, was destructive. Ki heimhema kafru beikar, because they denied God's existence. And if you want to look, it's like one of those stamps of approval from the Kli Yakar, that there's a verse in Job 21, verse 15. 21, verse 15 in Job, where it says, Ma Shaddai ki na'avdenu. Who is this God that we should serve him? Who is this God that we should serve him? What kind of chutzpah? You know what chutzpah is? What kind of brazenness? To deny that there's a God is denying the morality. Now, I understand that I would like to hear from you, a atheist, or let's say agnostic. An agnostic person, not so sure, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. That's a better position to be in than an atheist, right? Because an atheist is like for sure there's nothing, right? But an agnostic is like maybe and maybe no. And we all have, and maybe you're not in tune with it, or maybe you can justify it somehow differently, maybe through society. We have an internal compass, it's called like a moral compass, where we, in tune, we think that there's something wrong with certain acts, right? I mean, the left wing in America is the loudest when it comes to screaming about morality. So it's got to come from somewhere, and they're usually, usually agnostic as opposed to religious. I believe. Anybody believe there's a moral compass that we all have? Anybody?
In social, I study,
Or is it social? That's the question.
I mean, I study Madei Hamdina, and Hobbes is saying, I think, that there is no good, only because people are scared of the punishment. They're good.
That society puts down. So that is true about society. They make up laws that they basically agree with. So they want to function in society. They make up the punishments, and they might be afraid of them. That's one way to look at it. But there's been many studies. And let's take Nazi Germany, right? So for them, they really believed, let's say for at least majority of the real Nazis, not necessarily every German, that, what did they believe? That they were doing something good for mankind by wiping out the Jew. They really thought they were doing a great mitzvah, right? They're going to purify the world, bring it to a higher level. All we have to do is get rid of the Jew. So you look in Mein Kampf, Hitler himself says, the Jew, we have to get rid of the Jew. We, the German, we are barbarians, he says. The Jew they brought consciousness, morality into the world. So you can look at his own words. Every society would say do not murder, but then define murder. To step on a cockroach is not murder, right? So to step on a Jew and kill him is not murder, right?
But I think the concept of right and wrong came from religion through the time.
Okay, so just one second, I just want to follow this thought and then come to what you're saying. So there were Germans who ran away, right? They did not buy into this Nazi propaganda, okay? There were plenty of righteous Germans. And there might even have been German Nazis that realized what they were doing was wrong. Now your point. So you were saying?
The concept of right and wrong through all the societies, like into the ancient times, came from religion. Like even these days, what do you think is right? Why is right? Why is wrong to kill someone, or why is wrong? Came with religion also. Like came with in the West society it's more about the Torah or the Bible that have some parts of the Torah and the Bible too. But in the ancient times, like you have all the statements came with a believing that was a powerful source that gave the sense of morality.
Okay, look, you have the story of Cain and Abel, okay? You have the story of the flood. And every society around the globe, even Eastern religions, which don't have our Bible, they have other teachings. They also have the same laws of do not murder, do not steal, do not commit adultery, and all these things. Okay, they have marriage and whatnot. They have a 7-day week as well. Okay, we're not going to go there, but we're just talking about morality in general. Now, with specifically stealing. So he says, if one does not buy into this idea, one denies God, zechilam lasot chamas v'gezel ba'aretz. Okay, so this is going to be a strong statement. That this gives strength to the secular idea to do, let's say anybody who doesn't believe in God, to commit serious, violent crimes and steal. Now, as a religious person, I have to ask myself just about religions in general, right? Many wars, many killings, many atrocities have been done in the name of religion. So Judaism is not a religion, by the way, and it's not like any other religion, even if it is. Where do you have, except maybe in the false fake news that we have today, where do you have the Jewish people going out and just killing people? You can find laws like killing Amalek, killing this nation, a particular nation. We don't know who they are today, so we cannot fulfill it. But if you know what they did to us, you would understand why we have to stop them in their tracks. And that even though we're supposed to kill them, guess what? If they want to convert, we accept them full-heartedly. It's like there's something strange going on there, okay? But where do you find that the Jewish people are even trying to, forgive me if anybody here is a Muslim or a Christian, but these other two religions have tried their best to spread their message through the sword, not just through love, right? It's nice when you share, love, but when you share love through blood, the sword, it's not so nice. So, but where do you see the Jews doing that? Anybody, do your own research. In fact, when people want to convert, we don't give them such an easy time. It's not like, oh yeah, just say these 5 words or 5 statements or just dunk in a mikveh and everything's like, It's a little bit of a challenge, let's say. It's a challenge. We don't make it hard on purpose. Okay, trust me. It's not like that. Okay. So there is something different about Judaism and what we're going to learn from the Torah. So he says, maybe we should turn, everyone okay? Preventing thievery is going to become the foundation for our faith. Can you imagine? That's why Hashem put the book of Genesis in the beginning to do what? Before he tells you, what did I say in Exodus 12 verse 2, chapter 12 verse 2? Because it says, HaChodesh hazeh lechem, this month shall be for you. It says lechem. When you hear that word, for you, it's going to be the first month for you. If I tell anything, it's going to be for you. It means what? It means it's going to be yours. It belongs to you. The Hebrew word lechem, that's in Exodus 12 verse 2. But you go just a few verses later, Exodus 12 verse 21, when you're supposed to take the calf, the sheep, for Passover. It says, Mishchu ukchu lechem. You have to take for yourselves a sheep. It's the second time. For yourself. It has to be yours. And what does it mean, lechem? Mishelachem. It has to be from yours to remove any doubt that it's thievery. It should not come from thievery. The Baal Turim explains, so to Yitzhak. Now this is going to be very interesting. You may not have noticed this, but Isaac, in his old age, he's going to give the blessings to his son Esav. Of course, there is a seeming trickery going on. There was no trickery, but we'll discuss that hopefully another time. Maybe we'll touch upon it. Trickery, deceit, deception. His mother told him, better get in there before your brother comes back. So what did Yitzhak tell Esav? Go and bring me food. But what was the literal words? You'll find this in Genesis 27:3. And then we're going to see verse 5, what Esav actually did. So Yitzhak says to Esav, so now sharpen your implements, your sword, take your bow, go to the field, and hunt game for me. Right? Go and tzei hasadeh v'tzuda li tzayid, or tzeda. So what was Yitzhak telling his son Esav? Go and bring me ownerless. Right? When you go to the field and you go and shoot with an arrow, you go out and capture game, it's ownerless. I don't need forbidden foods, right? I don't eat gezo. I don't eat theft, from theft. Okay, so what does Esav actually do? Look at 2 verses later. Rebekah overheard when Isaac spoke to Esav his son, and what did Esav do? He went to the field to hunt game to bring it. What does it mean to bring it? What do you need the word to bring it for? Lahavi. Rashi says, what is the meaning of to bring? If he wouldn't find game, meaning if he didn't find the ownerless stuff, he would be intent to bring meat no matter what, even from stolen animals. Okay, so there's a huge difference between, we know that Yaakov and Esau were very, very different. So already there, in the text, there's a worry, a concern from Yitzhak not to bring back the thieved food, whereas Esau didn't care. So just quote Rashi, he says from Hezker, right? When Isaac asked Esau to go, from Hezker, not from the stolen meat. But Esau, in his own heart, he didn't really care. He would bring meat no matter what, even from theft. That's why Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Shelo Hevikim Yaakov, he brought Yaakov, right? Yaakov comes for the blessing, and he brings from the domesticated animals, who is Nizhar Begezo, God bless you. Yaakov would not take anything. God bless you. He wouldn't take anything that was stolen. Now, Adam Harishon also made an offering. Okay, the first man. And you guys know about unicorns? You believe in unicorns? Me neither. But apparently, Adam, the first man, offered up an ox that had 1 horn in the middle of his forehead, as the Medrash says. What is the Medrash literal? I don't know, but the message is literal. The message is that Adam was the only man, and anything he brought belonged to one man. Everything belonged to him. He couldn't have stolen anything. So this idea that it had 1 horn, I'll just read it. Shelo keren achatz b'mitzchay laharos, to teach us the fisher adam rishon keren echad, meaning hayachid ba'olam lo hayagezel mishum riyah. He couldn't have stolen from anybody. So whether this literally had 1 horn, or the message is that he didn't bring any, he was already careful in not being a thief all the way through history. This is the message. Al kain nitkabel karbano. That's why his offering was accepted. It's forbidden to bring up offerings from stolen money. Even for the Beit HaMikdash, to build the tabernacle. We discussed this before, that the day after Yom Kippur, that's when Jethro said, wow, Moses, you're sitting and judging all these people. Rashi says over there in Parsha Jethro, it was the day after Yom Kippur. And in the Parsha that deals with it, the discussion of when the second tablets were brought down on Yom Kippur, also over there, it discusses this was, the Parsha that deals with the collecting for the tabernacle, also discusses that Hakel, that gathering, took place the day after Yom Kippur. And why is this? In order to distance oneself from thievery, and what does thievery do? It brings one towards the denial of God. Who wants to be a thief and think that they're being judged? So it's easier to be a thief and to deny there's anybody watching you.
I'm so sorry, but I think I do not get it. Are you talking about the Yaakov, that he did not steal the animal?
Yaakov was always careful not to steal. Esau didn't care.
But he stole his brother's blessing because he has to dress up.
Oh, so that's something else. First of all, his mother told him.
Yeah,
So we can blame Rebecca. Okay, she's the one. He was just listening to his mother. But when he dressed up and he said, how does this go? This is where you put the comma.
Yeah, because
He says, right, is you Esav? Right? It's like, let's see, you want to see it?
But he still his blessing too.
He didn't steal anything. The blessing, Yitzhak knew he was giving the blessing too. There's no doubt in my mind. But there's different opinions. I'll leave it at that. Let's go to where... Okay, so if you go to chapter 27 in Genesis, verse 18, and we're really going to be dealing with 19. He came to his father and said, Father, and he said, Here I am. Who are you, my son? Jacob said to his father, It is I, Esau, your firstborn.
For me, he lied.
Watch, I'm going to change the comma. I mean, I didn't change it, I'm going to now emphasize. It is I, comma. Esau is your firstborn.
No, I did not get it. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm going to read Rashi. It is I, comma, Esau your firstborn. I am the one who brings you your meal, comma, and Esau is your firstborn. In the Medrash, Anochi Esav b'chorecha can mean I am Esav your firstborn, which is how Isaac must have understood it. But Jacob did not utter a gross falsehood. The words can also mean it is I, semicolon, Esav is your firstborn. Yaakov did not lie. Yaakov doesn't lie.
I don't know.
His mother told him what to do, and he was honoring his mother. And he didn't lie. You guys, how do you feel about that? I got thumbs up over there.
I don't know.
He had to be really uncomfortable
Yeah, because
with
like
that, because he was an honest man. That's why he was willing to
Oh,
abide
yeah.
by the.
Do you think he just said to his mother, you think he just said to his mother, no problem? He's like, what are you kidding me?
Yeah, exactly.
I can't do that.
Mom.
But she was a prophetess.
Right.
But like after that,
You have to listen to a prophet?
He was kind of a good guy. He
He
waited
was.
7 years for
He
his
was.
wife.
He was
He
very-
honored every contract he ever
It
made.
was like
He
14
honored-
years of waiting for a woman. So yeah, he was nice.
He honored every contract he ever made, and he never lied to anybody else. So I agree. I think he was uncomfortable with this, but he was an obedient son, and he did what his mother said to do.
Okay, so shall we go on?
He's ignorant.
Huh?
He's ignorant.
Ignorant? Who's ignorant?
Yeah.
Yaakov? Okay, so in Hebrew we call him a tam. A tam could mean pure and innocent,
Right. Naive.
but not ignorant. No, I mean, I understand the closeness of the word. Okay, now, Masha Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, from the fact of what Rabbi Yitzchak said, remember going back to Rashi, Lo etzarich lahachil, there was no need to begin the Torah with Genesis, just start with the first law. Ein haperush shelo yiktov b'Torah klal kol hasipur miBreishit ad chodesh zelechem. They didn't mean that you should just take out the first beginning of all Genesis and the first 11 chapters of Exodus, just tear it out, cut it out, give me a scissors and then just chuck it. No. Take it neatly and put it in the back of Deuteronomy and attach it, right? Like, wouldn't get rid of it, but maybe this is not where it belongs? Is that what he's saying? Or get rid of it entirely? No. The understanding when Rabbi Yitzchak said you didn't need to begin, it still has such great value to know that the world was created yesh miyayin. What do those words mean? Something from nothing. Now, I never liked those translations because the world was not created ex nihilo. There was nothing and all of a sudden you had something. There was energy, pure energy. God is energy. And energy becomes matter. Now, I'm not saying God became matter, but we're saying that the energy that God created became matter. So let's call it, say, spirituality. What you see in what you were looking at, the real world is really the spiritual world, and this is a manifestation, an illusion, a subsidiary of the spiritual world. Okay? So, yesh mi'ayin. Yesh means something. From either ayin, mean nothing, or you can mean ein sof. Ein sof means Hashem as the eternal one, where there is no end. Ein sof. Yesh mi'ayin. You have some physicality and something temporary in the physical world, but it's like extending from the spiritual energy that is eternal. Okay.
Like it's a manifestation of that energy?
Well, there's different ways to look at it, as if God, because if we say God is absolute infinite, and we are for sure finite. How do you have this finite world within infinity? So, as if he made a vacuum and allowed this finite world to exist,
Right.
as if he withdrew. These are all kinds of concepts we have to work out. So it says like this. Of course you need the Genesis to tell us that God created the world. Because the world is mefarsein. This idea of something from nothing lets people know there's a God. The atheists, I want you to know, always believed, and I say atheists, could be people who believed in pantheism, many gods, that the world always existed. So if you want to take science and say science is actually getting closer and closer and closer to the Bible. Why do I say that? Because 150, 300 years ago, the scientists said the world never had a beginning. It always was. Now they're saying it's like 14 billion, even if, I don't know, maybe even trillion, but it doesn't matter, 14 billion years old. Do you know how close 14 billion years is to 6,000 years? As opposed to infinity? It's like infinity closer. It's so close. You follow what I'm saying? The number 14 billion to the year 6,000 is so much closer than to say that the world always existed and never had a beginning. So that's why I say that science is catching up. Just you should know that when we talk about the world being 6,000 years old, we're really talking about the sixth day of creation. What happened the first 5 days? It could be 5, 6, 24-hour periods. Those 24-hour periods, there were no humans to witness it. So time may not be the same. And we produced, it's Dr. Gerald Schroeder, he was an MIT physicist. He explained, according to the Ramban and according to a man named Einstein, how both interpretations work out perfectly. That the first 6 days of creation with the theory, it's not a theory anymore, the law of relativity, and how you can have in 14 billion years, 6 24-hour periods. I know, you're rolling your eyes. That's a whole another assignment. That's not for me to give over. That's for you guys to investigate on your own. But you get the idea, you get the concept that it's possible. So you don't have to be an atheist if you believe in science. You can actually, many scientists are actually very religious people. Okay? So it's not a contradiction. So, Kihu Mefarse means Hashem. So the idea of the world being created from nothing is a way of proclaiming that Hashem exists. And not only that, Sipur Dur HaMabul. Also the idea that there was a flood, the whole story of the flood also teaches you about reward and punishment, that such a thing exists. There are several commandments that we find in Genesis, such as Ever Minachai. Did you know that you're not allowed to eat a limb off of a live animal? We're talking about all human beings, not just Jews. right? Jews are certainly, they have to slaughter the animal correctly. But a non-Jew who doesn't have the law of slaughtering animals correctly are not allowed to rip off and cut off a limb and eat it while the animal's still alive. I know it sounds gross and you probably never do it, but if you ever ate crab legs, you might have ended up doing it. Anyway, and also the circumcision to Abraham and the Gid Hanasha, the sinew that's in the upper thigh, was given to Yaakov. So there were mitzvot, there were commandments in Genesis. But besides that, what was the main point of Genesis? After the fact that the prime part of the Torah is for the sake of the mitzvahs it was given. Remember, if that's the case, if you're going to tell me that it's all about mitzvahs, it's all about commandments, then start from the first one and place all of that part from Genesis. We're not saying get rid of it. Put it in the back of Deuteronomy. It's also necessary. This is why it's coming to answer and saying like this. If it would have written like that, meaning with Genesis at the end, you would have had a great question on all of creation. That it really allows all deniers, I use the word deniers, of God's existence, to just think that the Torah is not for them and become heretics. Because the fact that it says, when you would read that, well, you wouldn't understand what it means. Kol shachein the pakar tfei. You wouldn't have any sense of justice. So vad, you know what you would say? You know what people would say? That Moses made that up. Remember, if you didn't have any concept of God, it's just a book of law starting with Moses, you'd have thought, okay, Moses made up a lot of these laws, especially this one. Ki ech yitzava Hashem bo al hagezel. Because why would Hashem ever come and command about thievery? Remember, the whole idea is that might makes right. This is like a prediction, word for word, for Darwin's theory of evolution. The Torah tells you, Mishchu lechem. When you take that sheep, take it from yours. Mishulchem dafka. Why? Maybe not from my own, but after you read all of Genesis, it's very clear that there's a moral compass that you're not allowed to steal. Hooray, atem listim. They're going to call us thieves. Ki lekachtem arto sheva umos. We went ahead and we took the land that belonged to the 7 nations. V'lo micha b'chem Hashem. And God himself didn't protest. Ki lo yikara haTorah mirosh v'yatsof. Well, perhaps you didn't read the Torah from the beginning to the end. That's why the Torah God needed to put the whole book of Genesis in the beginning to teach you about him. He's the one who created the world to teach you that by the time you get to Exodus 12, verse 2, when you're supposed to take a sheep and you're going to take you're going to start counting the months, it should be to you that there is such a thing as tzedek and mishpat, there is such a thing as truth and justice. Now, when it says like this is a very interesting verse. It's in Psalms 111, verse 6, but we're also going to deal with verse 7. Koach ma'asav higid liyamo. Remember, this is what Rashi quoted from Rabbi Yitzhak. The power, the strength of his actions are telling to his people. L'teit lehem nachlas goyim, to give them the real estate that belongs to the goyim, that everybody wants. Ma'aseh yadav, whereas the handiwork of his hands are emes u'mishpat, truth and justice. Ne'emanim kol pikudav. Faithful are all his orders. Why? We're going to take this verse and take it apart. The Iker Haggadah, the main declaration of the power of his deeds to his people. Hakol Hai Kadei Laharos, all of it is in order to teach that his handiwork is his truth and justice. Meaning like this, that the Torah and the tablets are godly works. They're Maisa Elokim. Like you're reading Path of the Just. You read it and say, wow, this is a holy book. You read the Torah, you know it's a holy book. Right? It's a Ma'aseh Elokim. And Hatzadikim Shenivru B'shtei Yadayim Hakol Be'emet U'Mishpat V'hu Monea Halistim. The tzaddikim, they were created with two hands, and everything is done with truth and justice, and the man himself has to prevent himself from stealing. And this would be the fulfillment of all of God's orders. Hapikudim asher pakad Hashem al arzo shevas unos. Right? God originally ordered that the 7 nations should live here. Ki b'ratzoni yizbarach nitna lehem. It was His will to give it to them. B'ratzoni yizbarach nitna behem. I have met Arabs, and they say, I believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You Jews are very special. You brought down the Soviet Union. I mean, they're uneducated. Okay, maybe they are educated, I don't know. But they say, you wiped out 7 Arab armies. Allah, I believe that, the land belongs to you. If you look carefully at the Quran, it talks about Allah in these sense. I don't know where these Arabs got off track, but if you fight a war and you win, it means that Allah is behind you.
Quran plainly states that the land of Israel belongs to the Jews.
Okay, but I'm not talking about that. That's true. That's a statement. But I'm talking about the very fact that you fight a war, you win, it means that the mighty one was behind you, the Almighty.
Absolutely.
Right? Unless you don't believe in God. So I have kids in the army, that serve in the army, and trust me, we are being protected by Hashem. The miracles are all over the place. I was here during the 1990 war, and I don't know. I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but you were okay. There were 39 missiles. I mean, they say one person died, but the amount of damage was horrible. But that people didn't die so there was something not right about the whole scene. Somebody wasn't telling us the truth, I don't know. The one bomb goes off in Saudi Arabia and like 80 people are killed. And they're not talking about high-rise buildings. You're talking about like tents in the middle of nowhere. And here you had high-rise buildings. And they collapsed and people walked away like without a scratch. I mean, obviously people were hurt, but not seriously. And we have the Golden Dome, the Iron Dome, we have all kinds of. But who gives us the ideas? Who puts the ideas in man's mind? Of course, man has to work hard and, go to sleep early and not stay up late, not drinking in bars and study and get good grades and, but Hashem He'll give you the ideas. Ulefi pshuto, according to the most simple understanding, why do you need to start from Breishit? Lefarsem amunus achidush, to proclaim and to spread the faith that the world, there's actually a creation, there's a creator, and He created from nothing. Kizeh yesod l'kol Torah, that is the foundation of the entire Torah. Kiluhu nacha olam kadmon, He placed away whatever worlds He had created before. Ein makom l'kabal Torah, for whatever reason they were not ready or available to receive the Torah. It was only this world, habenuya al yesod bechira. This world that we're in, that was built, is all about free will. It's all about free will. And that's why He placed the Genesis in. Now I just skipped to that. There's some really interesting stuff beforehand. So we'll go back to the beginning if you want to spend another 15 minutes. Okay. And if you go back on the first page. Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'es haaretz. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So why does the Torah begin with the letter Bet? Right? Aleph and Bet is from alphabet. I don't know what they say. You guys have a term for your letter system. What do you call it?
Abecedário.
Opposite.
Yeah.
And what do you call it?
Chinese.
So there's a bet. This is a bet. Okay? A bet looks like, from my angle this way, I guess from your angle it would look like that. Okay. So on Shabbos of Chol HaMoed, on the Shabbat that fell out in the middle of Sukkot, we read, Ashkenazim anyway, Shiraz, are you Sfardi or Sfardi? Yeah. When did they read Kohelet? Okay, so we read it during
on the Shabbat.
Shabbat of Chol HaMoed of Sukkot. When we're out, we give up our marble palaces and we sit in this very temporal wood, hut, and think about all the vanities of the world are not that important. So he says, Lefi shekol sefer Kohelet midame Shlomo HaMelech. King Solomon was the wisest man of the world that ever existed. And if you want to learn wisdom, read Mishlei, not just Mishlei, Kohelet. So many books he wrote. He compares the Torah to the sun. Now, I drew a picture here. I'm not an artist, but imagine this is the hemisphere, this is the equator. Some of you guys are south of the equator. So we're talking about the northern hemisphere, okay? The sun starts out in the north and goes, as the day progresses, it goes towards the south, and then it ends in the west. So out of the 4 different directions, 3 are covered by the sun. Starts in the east, a little bit northeast, goes toward the south, and sets in the southwest. So it looks like a half a moon, okay? She'ein mahalchakim b'shlosh ruchot, that the sun only travels in 3 directions, like the way a bet, which is open where? To the north. Okay, in other words, that's the north, that's the only area that it's not closed in. And what do we know about the north? Where does evil come from?
The north.
You heard this? Okay. First of all, what's the Torah? The Torah is the antidote for our evil inclination. God created us with, remember, free choice, all about free choice. He created us with the ability to choose. If everything is so clear, crystal clear, just good, then what are you left with? No choice, right? God, every time someone sins, what's it called? A lightning rod comes out from heaven, right? There's no free choice there. God wants to give us the greatest reward. In order to give us the greatest reward, it has to be earned. It's the opposite of what we call the bread of shame, right? There are people who walk around this planet who were, from the child, given a silver spoon in their mouth, given millions and millions of dollars. I'll put Trump in a different category for now, but people who never had to earn anything in their life, most of them have a very low sense of self-worth or have any self-esteem, and many of them commit suicide. There's a higher rate of suicide amongst people like that. Okay, so God wants to give us, and for us to earn it. Okay, this goes against, I think, much of Christianity, because it's only through not deeds at all, but through grace alone. All you have to do is believe. So we have a motto: all deeds matter. We're going to make a bumper sticker. All deeds matter. Because I think when the all black lives matter, or that came up, I thought all deeds matter. Not only that, ready for this? Unatinata, the Torah was given through whom? Through Moshe. And what was Moses' face like? It shone like the sun. Shepanav kachama. Vulayatam, perhaps the reason is because the Yetzer Hara, the Torah itself, is the antidote against the Yetzer Hara. The Vilna Gaon, the greatest rabbis of all of our generations, have always said, the purpose of life is to work on your character, to become a more moral person, to become a kinder, compassionate, merciful person. That's Judaism. That's like in a nutshell. Okay? That each one of the mitzvahs, there are opportunities to work on your character, somehow or another. The fisha yetzer hara mitnaged el haTorah, ba mitzvafon. That it's the yetzer hara that comes from the north, evil comes from the north, and it works against the Torah. And it's put together a Torah. It really wants to infiltrate and break apart the strength that you have of the Torah. Now, if you look in Yoel is Joel, chapter 2, verse 20. It's just the first few words. In context, if you read, it's talking about the locust. Okay, but keep in mind just these words. And the northerner I shall distance from you, and I will drive him to a land barren and desolate, its face to the eastern sea, and its end to the western sea, and its stench shall ascend, and its ill savor shall ascend, for it did great evil. Okay, here I don't know the translation is evil, but it did great evil things. Okay, we're going to go quickly to Job 37:22. I don't want to skip anything, but it's the next verse he wants you to see. So, what is it about gold? You know that the Jewish people can always turn around, just like Eve and Adam. What did Adam say? She made me do it, right? So that's where the sin lies, passing it off. Did you know that the Jews can turn around to God and say, we built the golden calf? Who gave us the gold? Right? We left Egypt. We had all this gold. If we didn't have all that gold, we wouldn't have sinned. Look at Job 37:22. Golden splendor comes from the north. Of course, we're going to blame them, but we have free will, and we have to take responsibility. We're still repenting to this day for many of our mistakes. So that is one of the ideas. Zav, gold, is like representing, there's good gold and there's bad gold. But the desire for gold comes from a not a good place for desires. So that's that verse here, right? So what about gold? It's mitnaged el Torah. It goes against the Torah. V'alrov hein borchim ze mizeh. When you're talking about Torah and you're talking about gold, they really, if they were magnets, they would be the opposite. They would push away from each other. Like it says. Now listen to this in Psalms 119:71. Psalms 119:71 says, it is good for me that I was afflicted, in order that I may learn your statutes. That's a powerful verse. Now the word afflicted in Hebrew, it could also mean impoverished. In other words, the less gold that I have, the more hunger I am for spirituality, right? Who is the one who is tested the most? It's the one who's wealthy. The wealthy people have greater tests. I don't know if anybody here is in that category, but they'd be sitting at the Waldorf Astoria right now having coffee. But the ones who are hungry for spirituality, they come, it is good for me that I was afflicted. Tov li ki uniti. Laman alameid chukecha. When I first became religious, I'm telling you, my Rosh Hashiva he said, you have a lot of potential. I didn't have a penny to my name. I was hungry for Torah. And he said to me that the best students are the poorest students. I don't know if he's trying to make me feel good, but it's good for me that I was afflicted in order that I learn from your statutes. Okay. Now he's going to end off his last paragraph. V'yatachen lafareshod. It's possible to explain even further when it says in Mishlei, that's Proverbs chapter 9, verse 1. Chachmot banta beta. Now the word beta really means house, bayit, but bayit is a bait, the letter bet. That's what he's saying. Why does the Torah begin with a bet? Because wisdom has built her house. The Torah was built. Now, the bias, the bina, the idea, this is really a very feminine thing. You know, women don't have the same obligations as men. They don't have to learn as much Torah. They have to learn what they need to do, and they have a lot less obligations. Because women are actually on a much higher level. Do you know the pinnacle of creation? Who was created last? Mankind, right? The day 6, man was the last creation, mankind. But no, think about it a second. All the animals are all created from the dirt, right? Right from the mud and a mixture of water. And what about man? Man also, clay and, right? Hashem took, I won't call it dirt, let's call it soil. He took Adamah, soil, from all 4 corners of the earth, and on the Temple Mount, which is just, in that direction, a few hundred meters, he built man, and he took the soil from Mount Moriah for the head, and that's why we have all different colors, and different shaped eyes, and different shaped noses, and different color skin. But we're all the same. We're all created from Adam, the first man, but God took the soil from the 4 corners of the earth. And the Rambam says that the very place that man is created from, that's where man will find his atonement. That's where he finds his atonement. That's why the altar is built over there. Where am I going with this? I want to talk about women. So basically, man was already created. And from him, so woman is the only creation, she's first of all the last. So that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, because first in thought, last in deed. Hashem, this is like the ultimate of creation is woman. This is what God had in mind when he originally created everything for woman. So a woman is, we have this thing called Bina Yisera. Bina Yitera. A woman has a certain intuition that men don't have. Right? Have you noticed that?
I don't know, I think John's a lot smarter than I am.
Okay, so there's a different, men and women are different. See, in America, they teach you everyone's exactly the same. I don't know about the other countries, but in the secular world, they generally do, but I could be overstretching myself by saying that. We think differently. We're biologically very different as well. There's different types of chemistry going on in our bodies and our thoughts and our feelings. But women are closer in tune, time-wise, with the moon, without elaborating.
That's true.
Without elaborating, right? There's a lot more. Well, most of us, our bodies are made out of, like 80% water. So the moon obviously has an effect on our bodies. And my wife's name is Bina. So Bina Yitera, I got Bina Yitera. I have extra Bina. Not because of me, but Hashem gave it to me. And so Chachmos Banta Besa. Akin Hifkel Chachmos Torah B'Beis. So that's why the Torah begins with all the wisdom with the bet, and this is my favorite line, He Geveret Habayet Klali. How would you translate Shiraz? He, that means wisdom, is she's the woman, Geveret. She's the woman, the general woman of the house. Or it's because of the Bina Yetera. I think it's because of her ability. She's got the wisdom. And I want you to know that many Jewish men walk around that are not married, and it's said that you're only half a person if you're not married. And I tell them, no, that's not what it says. So you're not even in the category of a human being if you're not married. You need a woman. You're not there. You're just not ready to live life until you get married. You won't be able to work on your character until you wake up next to someone who says, I give you advice for the day, you should handle that person differently, why don't you tuck your shirt in better, comb your hair. Real advice, I'm joking,
Oh, you nailed it. I'm always
The real advice. So a man needs a woman, and a woman needs a man, and Bezrat Hashem, many of the single people will find their soulmates, and live a nice, happy life with a lot of challenges. Don't think that it's easy, but it's life. It's real life, and Bezrat Hashem. So now we open up the